Dark symbols in the Bible refer to imagery, objects, or concepts within the biblical texts that are often associated with negative connotations, ominousness, or moral ambiguity. These symbols might include animals, numbers, objects, or even celestial bodies that hold deeper meanings beyond their literal sense. They serve as narrative devices to convey complex ideas, warnings, or moral lessons, often reflecting the dichotomy between good and evil, divine justice, and human morality. The significance of understanding dark symbols within the Bible lies in their ability to provide insight into the cultural and theological context of biblical times. By decoding these symbols, one gains a deeper appreciation of the biblical narrative and its teachings, allowing a richer understanding of the text's themes and messages. They challenge readers to look beyond mere words and think critically about the lessons being imparted, ensuring that these lessons remain relevant across generations. For example, the serpent in the Garden of Eden is one of the most prominent dark symbols in the Bible, representing deceit, temptation, and the fall of man. Its presence and actions lead to profound consequences and serve as a warning about the perils of straying from divine commandments. Another illustrative symbol is the number 666, known as the number of the beast in the book of Revelation, which signifies imperfection and human sinfulness. This number warns against the allure of earthly power and the potential for moral and spiritual corruption. Supporters of this interpretative approach argue that these symbols enrich the text's depth, providing layers of meaning that challenge readers and spark critical discourse. They highlight the Bible's literary artistry and its complex storytelling techniques. However, exploring dark symbols can also be controversial, as interpretations can vary widely and may lead to misunderstandings or be perceived as misrepresentations of religious doctrine. Some traditions may prioritize literal interpretations of biblical texts, eschewing symbolic readings as speculative or misleading. Additionally, cultural shifts over time can alter the perception and relevance of these symbols, challenging traditional interpretations and inviting modern reinterpretations. Understanding dark symbols is crucial to a holistic grasp of biblical narratives. They often interlink with broader themes of redemption, divine justice, and human failings, influencing theological frameworks and ethical considerations within Christianity. By exploring these dark symbols, one gains a nuanced perspective on the intricate tapestry of biblical literature and the enduring human struggles it portrays. In exploring the dark symbols of the Bible, their true meanings revealed, we delve into the layered and often enigmatic symbols that populate biblical texts, holding deeper meanings that transcend their literal interpretations. These symbols can represent concepts such as sin, evil, or spiritual trials. Many interpret these dark symbols as necessary to understanding the broader narratives of moral and spiritual growth, serving as warning signs or reflections of internal struggles within the human soul. Their significance lies in their ability to convey complex theological and moral lessons, often highlighting humankind's fundamental need for redemption and divine grace. Take, for instance, the serpent in the Garden of Eden, a quintessential dark symbol. Traditionally, the serpent is viewed as an embodiment of temptation, deceit, and the introduction of sin into the world. This symbol warns of the consequences of straying from divine instruction and the inherent frailty of human nature. Another example is the beast in the book of Revelation, often interpreted as a representation of chaos, disorder, and ultimate opposition to divine order. Here, it illustrates the enduring struggle between good and evil, encouraging vigilance and faith in divine justice. Supporters of these interpretations argue that dark symbols are essential for illustrating the stark realities of sin and the necessity of spiritual vigilance. They are seen as tools designed within sacred texts to engage believers in profound self-reflection and to guide them toward moral and spiritual enlightenment. However, the use of dark symbols in the Bible can be challenging and controversial. Some argue that these symbols, when taken literally, have led to fear-based interpretations that could distort religious teachings. Others point out that cultural and historical contexts play a significant role in understanding these symbols, leading to disagreements and alternative viewpoints. This symbolism is interconnected with other biblical themes, such as redemption, grace, and salvation, forming a rich tapestry that challenges believers to discern deeper meanings within their faith journey. Dark symbols often serve as counterpoints to symbols of light or redemption found within the same text, providing a balanced understanding of the human condition and the potential for spiritual transcendence. In essence, uncovering and interpreting these dark symbols deepens our comprehension of biblical messages, encouraging both individual and collective introspection and facilitating greater insights into moral and spiritual truths. The heading, Historical Context and Origins of Biblical Symbols, invites exploration into the roots and meanings behind the symbols found within the Bible. These symbols, often veiled in mystery, are crucial for understanding the deeper narratives of biblical texts. They serve as a bridge between ancient cultural practices and the spiritual lessons imparted by the scriptures. The historical context reveals how these symbols were shaped by the socio-political and religious landscapes of the times, thereby allowing modern readers to grasp their intended significance. Understanding the origins of biblical symbols is pivotal, as they are more than mere literary devices. They are integral to conveying the complex themes of morality, divinity, and human nature that the Bible seeks to communicate. For instance, the serpent, introduced in Genesis, historically symbolizes deceit and temptation. A product of ancient Near Eastern mythology, it reflects a broader cultural view of serpents as ominous creatures, a perception that permeates biblical texts. Similarly, the lamb, a symbol of purity and sacrifice, has roots in Hebrew sacrificial traditions, illustrating concepts of atonement and salvation that are central to Christian theology. One real-world application of understanding these symbols can be seen in religious art, where these motifs are visually represented, providing a tangible means for worshipers to connect with the Bible's teachings. Another example is found in literary studies, where scholars explore biblical allegories to unearth layers of meaning in Western literature that heavily draws from these symbols. Some scholars, influenced by historical critical approaches, argue that understanding the origins of biblical symbols challenges traditional interpretations, prompting reevaluation of theological doctrines. Others, however, maintain that the enduring power of these symbols lies in their ability to transcend their historical roots and convey universal truths. Nevertheless, the study of biblical symbols is not without controversy. Some theologians argue that overemphasizing historical context might undermine the spiritual teachings of the Bible, reducing its divine inspiration to mere cultural artifact. Additionally, differing interpretations have led to varying doctrines and practices within Christianity itself, highlighting the symbol's complex nature. This historical exploration underpins other aspects of the topic by providing a foundation for deciphering the Bible's dark symbols. By appreciating their origins, further interpretations can be made about their true meanings and contemporary relevance, thereby enriching our overall understanding of the biblical narrative and the timeless messages it seeks to impart. When exploring the theme, Dark Symbols of the Bible, Their True Meanings Revealed, understanding the role of darkness as a symbol is paramount. In biblical literature, darkness often represents chaos, evil, and the absence of God's presence, serving as a powerful metaphor for spiritual and moral ignorance. This symbol captures the duality inherent in many biblical concepts, contrasting with light and divine wisdom. Its significance lies in the way it underscores humanity's perpetual struggle between good and evil, setting the stage for narratives of redemption and divine intervention. Darkness emerges prominently in Genesis, where the initial chaos from which God creates order is described as darkness covering the face of the deep. This sets a precedent for interpreting darkness as something to be overcome through divine light and judgment. Similarly, in the New Testament, when Jesus is crucified, darkness falls over the land, symbolizing the weight of human sin and the transformative power of Christ's sacrifice. In understanding the impact of darkness as a biblical symbol, consider its depiction in literature and art. For instance, John Milton's Paradise Lost uses darkness not only to describe hell, but to explore the psychological turmoil of its characters, reflecting humanity's internal battles and the consequences of estrangement from God. Similarly, artists like Caravaggio have used stark chiaroscuro techniques to highlight the moral tension embodied by darkness. Despite its rich symbolic tradition, the concept of darkness in biblical texts is not without controversy. Some scholars argue that the pervasive association of darkness with evil perpetuates problematic societal biases, such as the discriminatory view equating darkness with negativity. Others contend that darkness in the Bible is not always negative. It can also symbolize God's mystery and unknowable nature, urging believers to trust in divine wisdom even in the absence of clarity. This symbolic dichotomy between light and darkness intertwines with other biblical themes, such as redemption and divine justice. The journey from darkness to light mirrors the personal journey from sin to salvation, reinforcing the central biblical message of hope and renewal. Furthermore, it accentuates the ongoing spiritual battle faced by believers, encouraging introspection and the pursuit of divine truth. Understanding this symbol's depth allows believers and scholars alike to appreciate